The moment she smiled at my father's funeral, I knew something was wrong. Who smiles when the man who gave them everything is gone? I stood there, my heart frozen, as Linda, my stepmother, hugged guests like it was a celebration, not a goodbye. If you've ever been betrayed by someone who smiled to your face but stabbed you behind your back, stay till the end. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because what I did next turned my pain into power. When the will was read, I felt my world collapse. My father had promised me everything: the house, his company shares, even the art collection he loved more than himself. But the lawyer looked straight at me and said, "Everything has been legally transferred to Mrs. Linda Carter." I almost laughed. It had to be a mistake. But Linda's smug smirk told me it wasn't. She placed her hand on my shoulder and whispered, "You'll understand one day, Gina. Your father wanted someone responsible to handle things." Her voice dripped with fake sympathy. I wanted to scream, but instead I walked out. Everyone thought I was the emotional stepdaughter who couldn't accept reality. No one knew I had already noticed something strange. My father's signature on the will didn't match. Weeks passed. Linda moved into my father's office, changed his desk, replaced family photos with her own. She even sold my mother's jewelry for charity. I felt powerless, but deep down I knew this wasn't over. My father had taught me to never let anyone steal what's mine, so I started digging. Late nights, endless coffee, and quiet tears became my routine. I went through old files, tax reports, and emails he'd sent months before his death. And then, buried deep in a shared drive, I found something that made my hands shake. A voice recording dated just 1 week before he died. His voice was faint, tired but clear. "If anything happens to me, Gina must know. Linda is not who she says she is." I froze. My chest tightened. My stepmother had more than a fake smile. She had a secret. And I was going to uncover it piece by piece. I followed her car through the dark streets, my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear the engine. She drove fast, like someone running from a shadow, straight out of town, past the old gas station and into a quiet neighborhood I'd never seen before. She parked outside a small house with no lights, unlocked the door and slipped inside with the silver briefcase. I waited for 10 minutes, then another 10. Curiosity burned stronger than fear. I got out and crept closer, peeking through a narrow crack in the curtain, and that's when I saw it. Linda wasn't alone. A man in a black suit was sitting across from her, flipping through what looked like my father's company documents. She handed him an envelope thick with cash, whispering something that made his eyes widen. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught one sentence clearly, one that made my blood run cold. "He has no idea I forged the second will. By tomorrow, the company's assets will be in our name." My breath caught. Our name? Who was this man, and how deep was she in this? I took out my phone, hit record, and stepped closer to the window, desperate to catch every word. But before I could press save, her head snapped toward the glass. Her eyes locked right on mine. I froze in the darkness as the lights inside vanished. My heart hammered in my chest. Had she really seen me? For a few seconds, I stayed perfectly still, clutching my phone, hoping she'd think it was just her imagination. But then I heard the door creak open. "Who's there?" Her voice sliced through the night like a knife. Calm, confident, terrifyingly sure. I backed away slowly, trying not to make a sound, but my shoe hit a loose pebble. It cracked beneath my heel, loud enough to give me away. "Gina," she said softly, like she'd been expecting me. "You shouldn't be here." I turned and ran. My breath came in sharp bursts as I sprinted back to my car, fumbling with the keys. Behind me, I heard footsteps and a man's voice shouting, "Get her phone!" I jumped in, locked the doors, and sped off into the night. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely drive. But one thing kept replaying in my head. She forged the will. I finally had proof. Or at least, I almost did. My phone had recorded only 30 seconds before the screen went black. The file was corrupted. I couldn't believe it. The one piece of evidence I had, gone. For the next few days, I stayed quiet. I knew she'd be watching me, Linda acted normal in front of others. All smiles, all fake sweetness. But her eyes followed me everywhere. Every move I made, she noticed. And yet, I could tell she was nervous too. Something about that night had spooked her. That's when I decided to fight back, her way. Quietly, strategically, I hired a private investigator named Marcus, someone my dad used to trust. When I told him everything, he looked shocked. "If what you're saying is true," he said, "your stepmother's been planning this for a long time." Marcus dug deep. Within a week, he found something I never expected. The man from that night wasn't a lawyer or an accountant. He was a convicted fraudster who'd changed his name 2 years ago. And guess what? The house Linda had gone to was under his name, not hers. Everything started fitting together like a sick puzzle. My father's sudden death, the rushed funeral, the will being changed just days before. She hadn't just stolen my inheritance, she'd built her entire life on lies. One night, while Marcus and I were reviewing documents, he paused. "Gina, do you know what this means? If we can connect her to this man in the fake will, she could go to prison." I nodded. "That's exactly the plan." But the next morning, things got worse. My phone rang. It was my dad's old lawyer, Mr. Jenkins. His tone was grim. "Gina, you need to come to the office right now. Someone just tried to access your father's original will from the archive." I rushed there, my stomach in knots. When I arrived, the office door was already open. Papers scattered on the floor. The security camera's red light was blinking. Someone had been there minutes before me. And on Mr. Jenkins' desk, there was a note written in messy, rushed handwriting. It read, "Stop digging or you'll end up just like your father." I stared at that lipstick mark, my hands trembling. That exact shade, crimson desire, was the one she'd worn at the funeral. My father's funeral. The memory burned in my mind like acid. She wasn't just greedy, she was dangerous. I showed the note to Marcus and his jaw tightened. "She's warning you. That means she's scared. But if she's scared, she'll make a mistake. And we'll catch her." I wanted to believe him, but fear had already wrapped around my chest. I started locking my doors twice, checking my car before driving, even sleeping with my phone in my hand. Every sound made me jump. But I couldn't stop now. My dad's voice kept echoing in my head. Never let fear silence the truth. Marcus and I decided to go public, not through the police yet, but through exposure. We created a silent trap. Marcus suggested hosting a family reconciliation dinner, inviting Linda and a few close relatives under the pretense that I wanted to move forward and make peace. Linda agreed instantly. "Oh, sweetheart," she said on the phone, pretending to be emotional. "I knew you'd come around. Your father would be proud." Her tone made my skin crawl. She had no idea this dinner would be her undoing. The night of the dinner, everything was perfectly staged. Cameras hidden in the living room. Voice recorders placed under the dining table. Marcus waiting in a nearby van, watching everything through a feed. I sat at the head of the table, pretending to be the naive, emotional stepdaughter ready to forgive. Linda arrived wearing diamonds, a bright red dress, and that same crimson lipstick. She hugged me tightly. "Oh, Gina. This means so much to me," I smiled back. "Of course. I've realized family is everything." Dinner went smoothly at first, too smoothly. She laughed, told stories, even pretended to tear up when mentioning my dad. Then, halfway through dessert, I said softly, "Linda, I went through Dad's old files the other night." Her fork froze mid-air. "Oh, and what did you find?" I looked her straight in the eyes. "A recording." Her smile faltered, just for a second. "A recording?" "Yes," I said, keeping my voice steady. "He said you weren't who you claimed to be." The color drained from her face. She tried to laugh it off. "Gina, that's ridiculous." But I leaned forward, voice cold. "And the man you met at 11:42 p.m. last Friday? Does he think it's ridiculous too?" The entire table went silent. My aunt looked confused. My cousin whispered, "What's going on?" Linda's hands began to shake. "You followed me?" I did. And I know everything. The forged will, the fake signatures, the secret transfers to that man's account. I even know about the offshore money you tried to hide. Her voice cracked. You can't prove anything, I smiled slowly. Oh, I can. The cameras in this house have been recording since you walked in. Every lie you just told is now on tape. She froze completely, eyes darting around, realizing she'd walked straight into her own trap. The room erupted, gasps, murmurs, confusion. But before anyone could move, Linda stood up, her voice shaking with rage. You think you've won, Gina? You don't know what you've started. Then she grabbed her purse and stormed toward the door. But Marcus stepped inside, blocking her path. Linda's face turned pale as Marcus laid out the evidence. Documents. Photos, recordings, everything we'd gathered. For the first time, she didn't speak. She just stared at me, like she couldn't believe the quiet, emotional stepdaughter she'd mocked had beaten her at her own game. The room was dead silent. My aunt whispered, "Is this true?" But Linda didn't answer. She just slowly sat down, trembling. The confidence, the fake charm, all of it, gone. I looked at her calmly. You stole my father's company, his money, his legacy, and you thought I'd let you get away with it? Marcus handed her a printed copy of the real will, the one we recovered from my father's lawyer's private archive. It was notarized and dated months before her forged version. And right there in black and white were the words I'd waited so long to see. All assets and holdings shall pass to my daughter, Gina Carter. Linda's lip quivered. You don't understand. Your father loved you? I interrupted. No, he pitied you. And now everyone knows what you really are. She reached out to grab the paper, but Marcus stopped her. Within seconds, police officers entered the room. Her expression shifted from anger to disbelief. You called them? I crossed my arms. No, Linda. You did, the moment you forged my father's signature. As they read her rights, she turned toward me one last time, her voice shaking. You'll regret this. I met her glare with a small, steady smile. No, I'm just finishing what my father started. They led her away in handcuffs as flashes from the reporters outside filled the room. The story had already leaked. Stepmother arrested for inheritance fraud after stepdaughter's brave exposé. It spread everywhere. People called me the girl who fought back. Weeks later, I stood inside my father's office again, my office now. The sunlight poured through the glass windows, and his photo sat right where it belonged, smiling back at me. Marcus walked in, holding a new set of keys. Everything's officially yours, Gina. House, business, everything she stole, all back in your name. I took the keys, tears welling up in my eyes. He always said the truth comes out eventually, Marcus smiled. It did. Because you never gave up. I turned toward the window, watching the city below, feeling peace for the first time in years. My stepmother had taken everything once, my money, my trust, my peace. But in the end, I took it all back, with interest. As I locked the office door behind me, I whispered, Rest easy. Dad, she'll never hurt us again. Final twist. Ending. A week later, I received this isn't over, an envelope with no return address. Inside was a single piece of paper, a photograph of Linda sitting in a courtroom smirking. On the back, a handwritten note read, I smiled to myself, folding it neatly. Oh, it is, I whispered. Because this time, I'm the one holding all the cards.